Principal, AppWorks, Jojo Flores, co-founder, Plug and Play. We saw Jojo earlier on during the MOU exchange. And this session will be moderated by Mohan Balani, co-founder and CEO, E27. And they're going to be sharing with us on the hot topic on talents, fostering talents to build quality teams in Asia. Okay, are we ready? It's the final session, so thank you so much for staying with us all the way till the end. We hope you have found the sessions insightful so far. And for now, on the topic of talent, Mohan, over to you.
Hello. Hi. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Hope you all had a good lunch and been enjoying the session so far. So we have a very interesting session today from a very illustrious group of investors, ecosystem builders from around the region, right? So we're quite lucky to have people from Taiwan, Singapore, Philippines, and of course, homegrown Malaysia joining us. So I'm expecting a diverse and a wide range of discussions. The session today that we have is that it starts from the grassroots, fostering talent to build quality teams in Asia, and more specifically, quality teams in Malaysia itself, right? Maybe without further ado, let's jump into the quick introduction by the panelists. So maybe Stephanie, you want to kick things off? Just a quick introduction about yourself and the work that you're doing.
Sure, Mohan. Thanks for the opportunity. So my name is Stephanie Ping. We are a co-working space provider. We've got 9 outlets and counting, very huge ones. And basically, you know, we're an ecosystem builder. All our spaces are hyper-localized communities where it has its own flavor and own, culture within each space. And if you want to get to know anybody of a specific flavor and industry, you go to those different spaces in all these different locations. And you get to meet whoever and connect and collaborate with them. We are sustainable, we are profitable. Every single site is profitable. It always opens profitably on day one. We fill up really fast, and therefore our whole company is PAT positive in the mid-teens, and every single outlet that we build is just going to make us more profits. And the reason I stress that is, of course, news lately about this industry. And I just want to say there is a model that works for this industry, that is scalable, highly profitable, and also can give back to the people and the economy by helping people prosper by working together.
Great, thank you, Stephanie. Markus?
Thank you. I'm a partner of Antler based out of Singapore, but also trying to spend a lot of time in Malaysia. We recently set up our office here in Malaysia in October, and Antler is a global early stage VC that has the mission to identify the most promising entrepreneurs, get them into our residency program that we run twice a year in the locations we operate in, help them find the right co-founder, the right business idea to build, and then invest after 10 weeks following the program. So we call ourselves a day zero investor. Nothing is too early for us. We really want to start with the individual, help them form teams and get started from the beginning. We make around a few hundred investments a year globally, and we are vertical agnostic, and then also help our teams to continue giving them access to capital all the way up to Series C. In Southeast Asia, we've been operating for 6 years, are currently present in Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Singapore, and super excited that we launched our first Malaysia cohort in October last year. Just set up the second cohort last week here in KL, and with the goal to empower hundreds of entrepreneurs in Malaysia and make 10 or more investments per year here out of Malaysia.
Great, thanks, Markus. Sophie?
Hi everyone. I'm Sophie from AppWorks. AppWorks, we are a regional VC. We've been around for 15 years. We're from Taiwan, but we're not just a VC. We also have an accelerator, and our accelerator is also been around for 15 years, and it's a regional program. In fact, our first startup from Malaysia, I believe most of you would know, is Signature Markets. It's the notable nuts brand here in Malaysia. So our founder ecosystem has more than 530 active startups. Yes, with the dead one is 800, sorry. But active one, 530, 1,600 of founders across Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Southeast Asia. So I'm very happy to be here to share more what we've seen, that how we can help founder more in this region.
Thanks, Sophie. And last but not least, but Jojo.
Thanks, Mohan. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jojo Flores. So I started Plug and Play in Silicon Valley almost 20 years ago in 2006. But I came back here to be closer to home in Asia about 10 years ago. Fast forward to today, we are in about more than 20 countries now in 60 locations, 60 cities. And we are an early stage investor. We do about 200 to 250 investments per year. We are also a corporate innovation platform where we work with almost 600 of the largest companies around the world with their innovation strategies. And lastly, we are an accelerator. We accelerate about 3,000 startups a year worldwide in about 25 industry verticals. So we launched our presence here in Malaysia about a year ago, and we're very, very excited to look to doing more. Thank you very much for having us.
So please join me and give the panelists a warm welcome to today's session. Okay, we have a very important topic at hand, right, which is really all about talent. How do we're hoping to get some kind of insights and strategies for stakeholders in the Malaysian ecosystem so that they can navigate that evolving talent landscape here. I will start with Markus. Markus, let's kick things off with the first question, right? We have a lot of new technologies that are developing, everything from blockchain, AI, and all that, right? So how can schools or educational organizations keep up, with the ever-evolving need for complex talent requirements that the companies of the future are going to have to hire from?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So first of all, I want to highlight that blockchain and AI, these are all, especially blockchain, there is a big risk for buzzwords, right? So blockchain there's been a lot of adoption and a lot of momentum in that space, but it's also a bit unclear how out of the overall market how relevant it is to do a very heavy push on blockchain. I think there is lots of opportunities around DeFi. There is opportunities around consumer gaming over time, but I would say let's not go overboard with blockchain, especially if it's not in one of the hubs that is epicenter for blockchain. When it comes to AI, I think there is definitely a lot of opportunities, and we need to see how we can also get more and more talent that knows how to use AI, and not necessarily building horizontal AI solutions like you would build out of Silicon Valley, which is, it's very hard to build horizontal AI companies out of Southeast Asia, at least for now. It will probably also change over time. But within vertical AI solutions, there is definitely opportunities to apply AI and solve problems here in Southeast Asia. And what that means for academics or corporates, as you mentioned, I think it's important to engage your talent early on and teach them how to use AI. Not necessarily becoming AI developers, but just force them to find ways to use AI to make your day-to-day work a bit easier, how to build products that are driven by perhaps latest Gen AI use cases and other, like within a university, for example, you can embed, you can push your students to do certain tasks more efficient using AI, or you could have boot camps, entrepreneurial hackathons that would then foster that creativity among the students. Same with corporates. I think in Malaysia, some of the corporates are already sponsoring some boot camps. I think Sunway is doing a good job here to really upskill the talent and create that pipeline that knows how to use these latest technologies.
So I'm curious, right, for Taiwan and Philippines, specifically Sophie and Jojo, right? Are there similar concerns that you all can share maybe?
Yeah, speaking about blockchain and AI, right, it's a very big, important frontier technology. And I forgot to mention that AppWorks, actually, we have a third entity. It's an AppWorks school. So we have an engineer school in Taiwan. it's a free school. We don't teach because we don't monetize on the student. It's a free for student. You just come here, we'll train you, but you gotta learn coding by yourself because, well, you can get a lot of resources to self-train, but in the school, we will provide a lot of projects. They need to build on project together. And because AppWorks, we have a founder community among the 530 of about 110, that's blockchain company. And then about another 100 is AI company. And then so these engineer on the training, they can directly work on project. That's blockchain, that's AI. That's why students coming to our program for free, but after 4 months, they can be a very capable engineer, and then we place them with the startup that we work with. That's also solving the problem for our founders.
Yeah, so it seems to me like it's not just in the responsibility of the educational institution, but the different stakeholders as well, right? To look at training the talent in the unique ways. In Philippines, does this happen quite a bit? Is there a focus on the,
Not so much. I don't see it so much in the Philippines yet. Okay, definitely there is a conscious effort to develop more talent, especially in Web3 or AI. But I'd like to give certain examples where I think not just Malaysia but also the Philippines can learn from. You know, for instance, last year I was in a roundtable meeting with some government people in Vietnam. And it's very clear as one of their programs that they will develop and build out a talent pool of 100,000 engineers per year. And I know that this is a conscious effort from not just by public sector but also the private sector, because when I talk to the startup community, it's also very clear to them that they would like to produce in one way or another, you know, through schools, coding schools, etc., 100,000 engineers. So it's that target is clear, and I think, you know, from yesterday and from today, with the action paper of Malaysia right now with KL20, I think that has to be defined as well, as Vietnam has. You know. Early this year, I also heard from our friends in NVIDIA in Silicon Valley that they have an arrangement with the Indian government to train 50,000 AI engineers per year. You know, so again, whenever I speak with either private sector or government in these two examples, there is a number that's very clear. Yeah,
so it seems to me like they have a clear plan and a KPI, right?
Yes,
that they want to set.
I think this is something that has to be clear also here in Malaysia. So they know where they are today in 2025. Where do they want to be? By 2030, where do they want to be? It's not just the number of startups or being in the top 20 of the ecosystem. Startup ecosystem, but also how much talent muscle will you be producing as a nation?
Yeah, so that seems like a good best practice they should probably implement, right? Some hard targets on talent numbers and all that. Then, Steph, on the community side, right? Where do you think the community players like yourself, what kind of role do they play in really bridging this gap, right? And how they can foster like stronger ties and knowledge sharing within these communities?
Yeah, I mean, I think before even going into our side, right, in terms of Malaysia, what a Malaysia public and private sector is doing on fostering this talent is that we actually, if you see, there's a coding school very similar to what Sophie is talking about called 42KL, which is brought in by Sunway Group. It's a European program that is giving free education, free coding. It's a free coding school. And the reason that it can be free is because it is self-learning and community-based learning. And self-learning just means that, you watch the videos there, you have a community of people, and then you learn how to code in this way. And, programs, when you say government, Khazanah's Dana Impact has invested into this coding school, and now they're bringing it to Penang. So there is a lot of government kind of help in terms of community-based learning that I see. And WORQ itself is also a community-based learning co-working space in all the spaces that we are in, because currently there's a lot of jobs that can be done remotely worldwide, and Malaysians are taking advantage of this, as well as people who are moving from higher cost cities to lower cost cities, and they want to win these jobs for their own livelihood. But in order to learn that skill in a short amount of time, what they do now is not to go to formal matriculated schooling, but to actually learn exactly just what they need to provide that service, and in a community style because if you just learn this online, which you can, it's less powerful than if you have a whole bunch of people also servicing other companies, whether it's worldwide or in your own local sphere, and then you spitball ideas with each other and you learn in that way. So what we do at our spaces is that a lot of these people gather, there's a lot of bonfires, there's a lot of co-learning together, and you'll see that we'll have stories where, some of these coders, they are driving like BMWs and sports cars and all that stuff because they are servicing a foreign market, paying them in euros and US dollars, and they only graduated with an SPM, or some don't even. But now they can really upskill themselves, have a wonderful life by way of this style of educating themselves. And the government, through Dana Impact, to 42KL, through even bringing in Plug and Play and Antler running all these accelerator programs, is really helping the people upskill to provide that level of skill and productivity that the market needs.
Yeah, so, okay, then let's shift gears
I
to the...
want to
you want to add
one-
something? Okay.
I want to add one thing, though. I think this is a great timing for Malaysia also. Not just that the government mentioned like the cost advantage compared to the neighbor and all that, but also from Taiwan, because Taiwan is famous for our semiconductor, electronic manufacturing, and we are very close to many of these large corporate, for example, some IC design company. You know what they are facing? The biggest challenge is talent. Taiwan is also the lowest birth rate in the world with South Korea, but the labor shortage is so serious. So actually a lot of IC design companies, including Phison was here on the stage yesterday. It's a Malaysia founder, built their IPO company in Taiwan, now coming back to Malaysia, build the new company. Why? Because Malaysia has a highly educated talent, good English speaking capabilities. And that's why I think that makes Malaysia so outstanding now. This is a good window, and I think no matter you're a startup or corporate, you should grab this opportunity.
So this builds well into the next part, right, which is the policies to attract talent back to Malaysia and to specifically build in Malaysia, right? This includes the visa green lanes, the incentive for unicorn companies and all that. So none of these are quite new, right? They've been talked about for a while, right? So can I understand, like, from Jojo's side, right, how do you think the government should work with the local population? So they manage the optics, right? Like, on one hand, you want to support the local guys, but on the other hand, you want to open up your country to all these overseas people coming in and the influx of tech talent from around the world, right? So how do you manage the optics for that from a government standpoint?
That's a great question. First, let me say that, if you go to Plug and Play in Silicon Valley, I have a 175,000 square foot building there. And at any given time, there's probably about 200, at least now it's a little bit lower, 200 startups from all around the world. And at least 70% of them are from outside of America, okay? So it is important that if you want to build a robust, sustainable startup ecosystem, foreign talent is important. I think Silicon Valley has shown that to us over the last 30 years. Now, you mentioned optics, and I think this is very important for any country, not just Malaysia, because essentially, if you want to bring foreign talent here, to live in a foreign country or to build your business in a foreign country, it has to make sense for them. So the storytelling, yeah, you have your infrastructure, but to really have them come here to Malaysia, the storytelling has to be really compelling. Okay, and let me tell you an example, or share with you an example that we had in Canada. Okay, so the government of Canada, specifically Alberta, and if you guys have been to Alberta, it's very cold, especially in the winter. Okay, and you cannot imagine, why startups would want to build their companies there, if you're sensitive to weather. But about 2 years ago, we set up an acceleration program for the for the local government of Alberta. They came to us and said, we want to future-proof our industries. And they're strong with oil and gas. Okay? They're also strong with mining. Okay? But they said, we want to future-proof these industries. And we want to bring in the best technologies in the world on top of these two industries, okay, which are brick and mortar industries. And 2 years, fast forward to today, if my numbers are correct, we have accelerated about 130 startups, and 70% of these startups are from outside of Canada. Okay? They have been able to attract 70% of this 140 startups into Canada.
Despite the weather,
Despite the weather. Okay? And I think it is because the story is compelling. They want to build they want to build their technologies on top of strong industries already. Okay? And I've heard, for example, I had a meeting last night with one of the government officers here in Malaysia, and I asked, what is Malaysia really strong at? And food and agriculture was one industry that they mentioned. Also semiconductors, it was one of the industries. And I think, if the government can, on the optic side, okay, create this storytelling where they want to really add value or enhance these two industries and invite startups in the process, and both local and international, I think it'll work.
Okay, I think that makes a lot of sense. So from the attracting standpoint, they're very clear to come here to build. Then on the local side, if I shift this to Markus, right, how do you encourage the pursuit of entrepreneurship locally, right? Especially since, culturally speaking, there's still a bit more resistance towards building companies or being entrepreneurial. So how would you say the government as a whole, the ecosystem as a whole, can further encourage entrepreneurship building activity locally?
Yeah, definitely an important question. So on one side, I think as Malaysia and Southeast Asia overall has a growing middle class and GDP, I think slowly there is also more risk appetite to perhaps give it a go and start become an entrepreneur. But still, there are lots of cultural and historical nuances that make it an unconventional path. So we need to first of all address the risk aversion. So one area that is of course providing building the ecosystem in the way that there is more investors entering Malaysia with the KL20 initiatives. There is now more and more VCs entering the market. We entered last year, a few others, and really, if you start a company knowing that there is also a growing ecosystem of follow-on investors, that then the risks your venture, because it increases the likelihood you can then raise the follow-on capital. I think another thing is, and that's what Antler is trying to achieve, is providing this environment for entrepreneurs to go into cohorts, and where you're surrounded by 70 or 80 like-minded individuals. Everyone is ready to start a company. They're all in, and they're inspiring each other and helping each other. So you're not out there alone. There is a lot of others, and building that environment, paying them a small allowance, some grants, giving them the capital, and then I think that's one area that through the government initiatives is accelerating as well. Besides that, I would say that there is also the what would I like showcasing some success stories. I think in Malaysia there still have not been that many successful. Let's look at the tech entrepreneurs, right? Not SMEs, but there have not been that many successful tech companies. So we need to have more success stories, and gradually, as there are success cases, entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs will get more and more inspired to also take the leap and really showcase stories. Doesn't have to be a big exit or unicorn. So showcase if someone raises a seed round, someone achieves something great. Let's publish it. Let's talk about it in the news, and really hope that others will also follow the lead.
So can I chime in?
Yeah, go for it.
Because AppWorks, we also have a fund sister fund. We are the supporter of Antler. Always love Antler because I think early stage VC accelerator program is as brave as the early stage founder, because they are all taking tremendous risk, like 99% of the fail rate, right? So I think we share the same mission here. It's all providing the founder community to help founder, because you may not succeed in the first time, but it's okay. You can come back, do it again. Now you have so many founders as your classmate, right, to build it together. And at AppWorks, we have very strong regional mentor, like, for example, Tokopedia founder, Leon, like Lalamu founder, or like Shopback, Carousel, all these notable growth stage startup in this region as your mentor, as like 3 to 5 steps ahead of you to help you. And then we've seen a lot of great things happening organically in the community that you can fail, you can join another one, and then you become starting something new. And pivot is inevitable for your founder's journey. Don't be afraid. So I think that's why we all are in this mission together.
So Mohan, just I want to bring up, just now you were talking about the Visa Green Lane, right? I think the government of Malaysia actually did a lot on this front. They've got the Digital Hub program that's been around for like about 5 years now. And in these digital hubs, right, basically the startups, they get to have a lot of benefits in terms of tax incentives, in terms of ability to hire foreign talent. And they do not have to be in MSC buildings, which could be more expensive, and it can be in the digital hubs. And they've got the MTAP visa program, of which like a foreign entrepreneur who wants to start the company here, and you can imagine if they make that calculation of cost base where to start the company, early stage startups find it very friendly to be here, except for the visa, because they have to do a 3-month visa run every time if they want, to be compliant. But with the MTAP, they can stay here for a period of, I believe, 5 years, 2 years and 5 years, I think the program is, but you have to apply out of digital hubs. We've seen the numbers are, I think we've seen in our spaces alone hundreds of these MTAPs application go through MDEC, and it's been very well utilized, I would say. And recently they've launched the D-Roundtao program also by MDEC, and that's trying to get the digital nomads into the country. And I would say foreign talent comes into our country and have this whole influence, positive influence with our local people and talent, then that's we get a lot of ideas cross-bordering just within our cities itself through these government visa lane programs and all that stuff. So it's very important to have them, because if you don't have that visa program, then it is already compliantly very difficult for these entrepreneurs to stay in the country. But I've seen in our space alone, I've seen like people here for 6-7 years already running their startups. They're from Italy, they're from parts of Eastern Europe, and they're really bringing that whole community over here and having that grassroots, right? But in terms of like inspiring new entrepreneurs as well, I think we have to recognize the fact that we have successful startups that we never called them startups. AirAsia, for example, I think it's a tech company because as an airline, and I worked in an airline in the past, it is not seen as the same thing in the aviation industry. It is an innovation company, unlike, say, other airlines. Just like Zara is not the same as other retailers. And if you see people like Tony Fernandez, he has empowered a lot of entrepreneurs. Aaron Sharma, he's got a lot of divisions within his company that he have empowered these senior managers to be their own entrepreneurs within that company. And that's an example we can cite in terms of being inspired by a successful entrepreneur when wanting to start something and then following in their footsteps in doing this. And we just have to increase that inspiration factor and have, say, Job Street founder Mark Cheng. He's actually supported a BFM founder in his journey. So we need to have more WORQ itself, like our employee number 4 is starting her own startup in assisted living, Golden Hearts. And this is very early stages for her, but she's been through all that with us. And the number one thing she said is, well, I got to make sure it's profitable. That's what she learned from us. And if you have this kind of successful startups, Grab, and so forth, people take inspiration for that. And I can say it's very powerful because I actually came from that kind of story where I worked for 2 startups, one in Silicon Valley by a very successful startup founder called Bill Nguyen. He's got 6 companies. He exited 5, one of it to Apple, to Steve Jobs himself. Like, we were there when he did that negotiation and got that exit. And all my colleagues, including me, are starting companies. The difference is that his startups are the kind that was during the heydays, so they grow very fast. But later on, I went to work for a company called CashNet that became Innova, got listed, a highly profitable fintech company back when it wasn't that fashionable. And now it's just merged with another company, became very big. That's where I learned the profitability from these 2 gentlemen called Al and Alex Goldstein, who was originally from Kyrgyzstan. They are very cost-conscious people because they grew up in very impoverished situations in their lives. They didn't have enough food until they migrated to America. And that's where I learned a lot of how to really be scrappy and how to be very, very risk aware and yet grow like crazy. And that fintech company, I'm really proud of them, is probably one of the most profitable companies I've ever seen and worked in. Yeah. So that's where you get that inspiration factor.
That is very much inspiring and insightful. I think we have to wrap up the panel, but we have a closing statement from each of you, right, with respect to giving advice to the community. So what is one key advice that each of you would like to think, right, and give to our community with respect to fostering talent and building a better talent pool and quality teams in Malaysia? Like, what do you think the different stakeholders in the Malaysian ecosystem could do? Maybe we start with Jojo and we work our way down.
Maybe we start with...
Start with Stephanie. I thought we leave the
Jojo,
Malaysian company.
Right? Yeah. We just turn and look at...
We leave the Malaysian company for the wrap-up.
So collaboration right here, right? We have this unspoken rule where, like, Jojo's going to, like, pass the ball by looking. So I'll take it. I'll take the ball, Jojo. I think in terms of what I want to leave the audience thinking in terms of talent, if you've got a small company or a big company, you've got a lot of people that works for you, you have to address the big elephant in the room, which is flex work, right? We didn't get to talk too much about flex work, but I can tell you it's coming to your doors. Your employees are going to want it. If you don't provide it, someone else will, and you might lose the talent on war. The war on talent. And ultimately, that's the equilibrium. It is a good thing. It brings about more efficiency. You do not have to commute as much. But there are ways that you need to manage, and the good thing is that you have time to kind of like work out your systems and processes and your planning, because people do not expect you to do this overnight. It is a structural shift to flex work, but it'll take years, and you have that amount of time to plan. So if you know that it's coming, I would suggest that you start planning for it now. and it will require you getting to know the mindset and the work style and the deliverables of your teams. And we've done, because we consult for companies big and small on moving towards flex work, right? MNCs, we run surveys, and we would see that the different teams would require different styles of working. Marketing, for example, we run a survey with their teams in this MNC. It's a very traditional, very successful companies. Their marketing teams do not want flex, they want to come to offices more because they have to collaborate in the creativity. Finance department can work from home because it's very kind of administrative work. But at the same time, moving towards that is going to take a bit more systems process. How are you going to know, when people have achieved their goals in that team, as well as because people are so used to how they're working now, moving towards the new style is, especially to convince the managers, is going to take some effort. So the managers, like this company we consulted for, they all have one desk to one person now. Managers have huge rooms, right? But HR wants to move towards flex work, but got to take it in gentler ways towards there. So we're planning for them to have, instead of one desk to one person, 1.2 to 1. So 1.2 headcount to one desk. They start to have to give up their desk in a gentle way. It's going to move to 1.5 desks to 1, 2 desks to 1 in the future, but progressively. The managers' rooms as well, you will see that the managers start sitting with their teams when they first have their companies in our spaces to get their feet wet to this flex work style. And after that, the managers abandon their rooms, sit outside with their team, be with their team, and they become part of the team. What are you going to do with the managers' rooms? You have to pre-equip them today to be turned into meeting rooms into the future. So that's in terms of the space planning. But in terms of like, how are you going to evaluate your team in terms of their progress? You really don't care what they do as long as they hit their goals, right? You got to have all these KPIs, all these systems, all these tech enabling tools that you have. Once you have that in place and you have a conversation with your team, then you can start to move to this work style, and it's going to be a better equilibrium because people will have a lot more time and work-life integration. And then, it's going to be a much more sustainable way of working with happiness in their lives.
So key summary here really is the work-life balance model, work-from-home kind of arrangements, and a restructuring of workspaces to better suit collaboration. Great. Markus?
Yeah, I think perhaps in the context of entrepreneurship and tech, first of all, the time I spent in Malaysia, I realized there is already a lot of talent here, but it's a great education system, and there is a lot of drive and the hunger in the market. But what is still to an extent missing is that the overall inspiration to build towards a big outcome, like the environment, and that's what I think is an area we can improve on, really helping on one side Malaysian entrepreneurs to develop a mindset to think bigger, build regional or global companies out of Malaysia, and not just look at Malaysia as the end game, but out of Malaysia build successful companies. On the other side, also foreign companies, or some of you that are visiting Malaysia, consider setting up an office here and train the talent to have a more different mindset, and then over time, really, that will create more and more successful companies that will then also, talent working in these companies in the next 10 years will then go out there and start more of these companies. That can be tech companies, it can also be more companies like AirAsia and others. So I think really getting the flywheel going by enabling the talent that's already here and bring in foreign talent and really achieve a lot together.
Got it. Okay, so in summary again, enabling talent that's here, bringing foreign companies in, and also better role models to inspire the local talent pool.
Exactly.
Right. Sophie?
I have 3 things to say. First, to echo Stephanie's view that, because I think early April, The Economist has a new article. It's interesting. The title is The Rise of Remote Husband. Because there are so many flexible working, a lot of remote engineer at home. And now it's not stay-home housewife, it's stay-home engineer husband. It's an interesting article people can read. But I have the second thing to say is, from not just as a VC, accelerator, runner, I'm also a founder's wife. So literally, I'm having a busy conversation at my household every day. And we talk about how to inspire, how to recruit, how to improve the talent quality every night. And the conclusion is always, as a startup, you can only grow fast and succeed because that's the only thing that really, really inspire your employee, continue to follow you, work with you, and attract better and better talent. So for startups, it's still coming to the same goal, successful. And the final point I want to mention is, because AppWorks' mission is always for founders to share with founders, because a founder would know what you're struggling with, right? And so just an advertising moment that we have a panel and a happy hour next Monday, which we bring two founders, growth stage, from Indonesia and from Hong Kong. They're coming to share how they succeed in expanding to other markets and to build a distributed team and attract talent regionally to join their growth journey. So I welcome everyone. Please join our panel and free happy hour next Monday. Thank you.
Thanks, Sophie. Jojo?
Thanks, Mohan, and thanks again, everybody, for having us this afternoon. As a final word, if you would allow me to just share with you a little story. Last year, I was in an event with Meta that I co-hosted in Ho Chi Minh. And while I was there, I asked one of my team members to arrange a meeting for me with one of the top startups that they had in the city or in the country. And I met this guy. If I'm not mistaken, his name is Stephen. And he just raised $50 million at a $200 million pre-valuation. So pretty successful. And I asked him, so Stephen, tell me what the startup scene here in Vietnam. And he said, Jojo, we don't talk Web 2 here anymore. We leapfrogged that and we went Web 3. Great. What's the effect? He said, just in the last 3 years, listen to this, at least 1,000 startups raised at least $1 million each. Now that has become the story of Vietnam. The following day, I was having breakfast. There was this lady that was alone in the lounge. I joined her, and she was from Shanghai, if I'm not mistaken, and she was representing a $300 million fund out of China. And she said, I'm here because Vietnam is the hottest place for Web 3. So I think as a final word, that would be my challenge to the entire Malaysian startup community. Government, corporates, startups, universities. And I think I've been here for 2 days, okay? Maybe I didn't get it. Maybe I didn't get the memo. But what is the Malaysian story going to be? With that, thank you very much and good afternoon to all of you.
Yeah, thanks. I think this is a very good wrapper to think about. Please join me in thanking the panelists for today's session. Thank you very much, everyone, for being a good audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all right, and thank you very much, Mohan, as well, for moderating the session, and to our esteemed lineup of panelists, thank you so much for sharing with us your thoughts and experiences. A quick photo opportunity as we wrap up this session, which marks the final session for our KL20 Summit 2024 Day 2. Thank you to all of our exhibitors, our partners, to all attendees here today, and of course to our moderators, to our speakers. Thank you so much for your kind presence and for your invaluable contribution as well in the spirit of innovation innovation and entrepreneurship. And we hope that these 2 days have truly sparked some ideas, some growth, and perhaps made meaningful connections and conversations as well as we can continue after this session. And we look forward to seeing you next year. I believe the booths are still available for about an hour or so. So please do help yourself, check them out, ask as many questions as you like before making your leave. And all the best in your ventures, and hope to see the next unicorn coming soon in Malaysia. All the best. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe.